Good evening, everyone. I'm going to call the Planning Commission meeting to order. It's Monday, October 7th at 6 o'clock. I'll do roll call. Steve?
Here.
Josh?
Here.
Bailey?
Here.
Kate?
Here.
Mike?
Here.
Waiting, I don't know about John. So first item on the agenda is to approve the Planning Commission minutes from September 11th.
Make a motion.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion, a second to approve the minutes from September 11th. Is there any discussion on the motion? Not all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Next item on the agenda is site plan review for 1430 North Acres Road, Wisconsin Credit Union. Okay, Carter.
Thank you, Mayor. Site plan review for 1430 North Acres Road. Wisconsin Credit Union is proposing their new credit union facility to be built on the site. The proposed facility is 5,940 square feet on the lot that is 1.91 acres. It is the last available lot in the North Acres Business Park to be developed. Zoning ordinance criteria, it's zoned I3 mixed industrial commercial, which financial institutions are permitted use there. It is surrounded by the I3 mixed industrial commercial, so there's no zoning conflicts. The proposed development meets all the required setbacks and zoning requirements. For architecture, the building is proposed to be 24 feet 3 inches in height at its peak. The building materials are brick, stone masonry on all sides of the building with some decorative metal accents on the roof lines. This submittal would meet our architectural standards. For landscaping, they're required 10 trees and 60 shrubs. They provided 10 trees, only 28 shrubs, but they supplemented that with 56 flowering perennials, 34 plantings of grasses, and 5 boulders, which we deemed was a adequate supplementation. Their trash enclosure is going to be a 6-foot high masonry wall, meeting our L5 landscaping standards there. Stormwater was the tricky one on this development, but we made it work. It drains into the existing stormwater easement to the north, and that leads to the regional facility across North Acres Road. From our city engineer, the impervious area was lower than the regional pond's design capacity, which is good. The HydroCAD modeling showed that pre- and post-development flow rates were compliant with our standards. They also provided additional treatment on site with a pond and grass swales to kind of treat and convey that runoff. And their parking lot drainage meets that standard using the grass swales and on-site pond instead of direct inlets. The HydroCAD also confirmed effective runoff control and peak flow reduction. For utilities and public services, their utility plan showed a 2-inch water lateral and a 6-inch sanitary lateral connecting to the existing main. Proposed stormwater infrastructure, like we just touched on, drains to the adjacent easement and across to the regional pond. They will be required to coordinate with city staff before connecting to the water and sewer, which is pretty standard. Our other departments reviewed it. The police department had no concerns, and the fire department did recommend adding a fire extinguisher near the main entrance. Parking, access, and traffic control. For banking institutions, they require 1 stall per 500 square feet of floor area. I believe that would be about 12 parking spaces they would need. They provided 25 spaces, meeting the standards. They did provide a traffic control plan for the anticipated closure of North Acres Road for the lot entrance construction and pavement replacement, which there will be advanced warning signs placed on North Acres Road at the intersection of 29 and Canton. The pavement replacement is our standard specifications, the 12-inch subbase, 8-inch base, and 4-inch asphalt thickness for the street pavement replacement, and they will match the curb style as well. They provide outdoor lighting plan, which meets our city standards, no more than half a foot candle at the lot lines, which they met. And they will be submitting a sign package that will be reviewed separately as well. Overall, we recommend that the site plan for 1430 North Acres Road be forwarded to the Common Council with recommendation for approval and the subject conditions listed in the attached resolution. Also, any additional changes proposed by the Plan Commission as well. So any comments or questions, you can take those. And there are also some representatives from Wisconsin here as well that could answer some questions.
I don't have any questions. I mean, I'll approve resolution 4124. It's pretty straightforward. No, there's nothing outside of the zoning requirements that we need to review in terms of the deviation.
Second?
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the resolution approving the site plan for North Acres, 1430 North Acres Road for Wisconsin Credit Union. Is there any discussion on the motion?
Mayor, question, Mayor.
Go ahead.
I don't know if I know there's a lot of you who came. Does anybody want to come up and speak just so you didn't, I know. If not, sorry, well.
That's all right.
move the meeting on.
I would like to hear if you had some tentative dates as far as when, sometimes we get asked what's going on, what your dates are for commencing construction on it, and also when you see it being completed.
Yes, I can address that.
You have to come up here to the podium, please, because that way that everybody at home can hear you. Tell us who you are, please.
Yes. Linda Powers, I'm with River Valley Architects, and we are planning to break ground actually with a formal groundbreaking ceremony on October 21st, 2 weeks from now. The plans, as soon as we get through the next step with the city council, if that is, favorable, we'll be going to Alcroy right away the next day to get the plan review process started. And then we actually start to move dirt probably the 28th of October, because that'll be our 2-week time frame that Alcroy will need to approve the plans. And we're looking at construction through the winter into the spring with a completion date approximately the 1st of August.
Well, I'm going to ask the footings question, since you brought up the dates. So when are you planning to get your footings in, just because of the frost?
Footings will be going in ASAP.
Okay, I'm like,
And
that's tight.
Yeah, it's going to be challenging, but,
okay.
and then we've got a few interior footings that we will actually be putting down below frost rather than just below the slab
Okay,
because of the winter construction.
okay.
So, no, we are very aware that we're pushing it to the limit here. So, any questions, other questions on the architecture?
So there's going to be, on the runoff, on the stormwater runoff, that's
Okay.
going to be, we're going to tentatively go to the north with that?
Okay, I'm going to refer that to our civil engineer. I'll
Okay.
let him come up and
All right.
address that for you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Scott Cerveny with Advanced Engineering Concepts. So yes, the stormwater runoff will run to the north. There's an existing drainage easement that runs along that north side.
Okay.
There's a culvert that comes across the highway there, and then that goes into the regional facility located across North Acres.
Carter, in looking this over, and Matt, did you see any issues with the site plan or the erosion control, the grading, anything like that? Everything looks to be
Yeah,
in order?
we usually kind of confer with our city engineer, Greg Adams, on this, and he found out through some old records that Cedar Corporation had that the stormwater pond across the street there was actually sized for post-developed conditions of every lot there
Okay.
in North Acres. So it is sized adequately, and the stormwater treatment that they're doing on site certainly helps with the pond and the grass swale as well. So.
That's all the questions I have.
Anyone? Oh, go ahead.
Just quickly.
Cool.
Tara Beekner, Regional Vice President for Wisconsin Credit Union. I've been leading, or part of the leadership team in Prescott for the last probably close to 10 years, and I remember initially that having a standalone brick and mortar and showing that commitment to the community was one of the things that I talked about right away, and we're at that point, and we want our Prescott community and our members in Prescott and the surrounding area to see the value and to see our commitment to them and to their growth and their financial stability and as our members. Any questions for me from a credit union standpoint?
Thank you. Okay, is there any other questions or comments? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion carried. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda is Capital Improvement Plan 2025 through 2031. Matt?
Thank you, Mayor and Plan Commission members. So a couple of years ago, we brought this capital improvement plan. And what we do with these is we put all of the capital items that are over $5,000 and have at least a 5-year lifespan or more into a plan so we can kind of judge where we're going financially over the next 7 years. So we have a roadmap of where we're going. So when people, when residents ask us what we're looking to do, we can steer them in that direction. And it also gives us the ability to map out where we're going. So the point of tonight is to really show you what items that we're looking at, get your feedback, give your recommendations so we can then bring those to council and ultimately looking for some sort of recommendation from Plan Commission to bring specifically to council. So with that being said, there's a number of equipment items that are in there. You can see those in your packets. There's 2 different lists. There's a list of funding items by department and then a list of funding items by revenue source, or I should say fund of where they will be paid. So the items that we'll be going over tonight are more of the parks and the streets items for review. And please, if you have questions, jump in, ask. I'm more than happy. So to start with, the 2025 items. First, for the 2025 mill and overlay project, this is estimated to be about $434,093. This includes a 3-inch asphalt mill and overlay, exactly what we just did on Cherry Street from Broad to Elm and Kinney Connect from Broad to Elm, and then additionally on Monroe Street, a section of Monroe Street between St. Croix and Walnut, and then a small section of Willow Lane. So this will include all review of storm sewer and needed repairs by our public works crew. Additionally, we use our data. Carter's done a great job of developing a GIS application that we can work with in terms of WISLAR data, have a rating for each street, and then we go through and we look at what our priorities and use that for trying to judge where we're going for future items. So this specifically would cover Jewel Street, Tower Road, Tower Heights Court, Tower Heights, a section of Linden, and on both north and south of Walnut as well. Financing for this would come from our 2023 aid bonds proceeds and investments. We have 3 years to make those in expenditures. Fortunately, we saved some money on Elm and Washington as bids came under what we expected, and then also with favorable interest rates, using those proceeds to do some of this work. And then an item that was supposed to happen this year, unfortunately, with the DNR requirements to do a hydrology study and additionally a wetland delineation, this got pushed back as their approval didn't come until late July. So what this project is a 3-inch asphalt parking lot. The parking lot that's currently there will be paved. An addition of 4,100 feet of ADA 10-foot trail, a stormwater pond, park benches, and fire pit, and then extension for water and sewer to someday potentially have a shelter and bathroom as Cooley River trails, if that potentially keeps growing, that could be added in the future. The financing for this, we did receive a grant from the DNR for $280,000. Additionally, we set some CIP funds from this year and then again for next year for a total project potential cost of $584,699. Tennis court, unfortunately, the tennis court has gotten to a point where it's in quite a bit of disrepair with all the cracking. We tried 2 or 3 years ago to repair it. All the same seams and cracks are opening. Asphalt tennis courts generally last about 20 to 25 years. This one will be going on year 24, so at this point in time looking at complete repair or reconstruction, I should say, of taking out the old asphalt and re-putting it down. With all of the discussion that we had on this, Parks and Public Works Committee discussed a number of items. I know before Bailey you had discussion. Now John's deep in the pickleball dynamic and discussing that, and with pickleball taking off, we ultimately made the switch from two tennis court from 1 tennis court to 4 pickleball courts. And financing for this, with the favorable interest rates from 2023, we did from our general fund reserves. We will be using investment funds to pay for that work.
Any feedback about noise complaints or anything like that from? I guess you live right next door to it, don't
Yeah,
you?
no, it's fine. I think it's great. People
Yeah,
are always
cool.
out there and
That's like one thing I hear from other cities is noise complaints. about
No, I
vehicles,
mean,
so-
it's not, it doesn't bother me any.
Yeah.
But I think it's great that there is always people out there. Constant.
Yeah,
When it's cold, it doesn't matter.
people love pickleball.
I
too.
do.
I got a paddle.
We should play some.
Other items. Chestnut Street Mill and Overlay, this is the small section between Walnut and Ash for $54,100 is the expected cost. We expect to add this as alternate for our 2025 Mill and Overlay project. This ideally would come out of the general fund budget for street repairs and maintenance. And then Shane Park Circle, this was one that was in our old capital improvement plan. However, we did survey surrounding residents, and overall, the feedback we got was more just some additional trees, a couple more benches. So instead of more larger improvements, we'll be just taking that out of our general parks budget to make those items. So we do save $29,466 from our parks improvement fund to put towards future items. 2026 and beyond, just wanted to touch upon some things that we've discussed and that are not included. We have a number of things in the work. First, public buildings, looking at concept planning for development cost estimates for a long-term plan for public safety, specifically fire and police. And also then how does that look for if we were to add City Hall or keep library here or adjust this building. Again, that's a long-term plan, so that's not included in any of the CIP costs. Again, well projects, working with CBS Squared to develop options for treatment versus a new wells for wells 2 and 4 with new requirements that are coming up in regards to PFAS and then nitrates that we're having. What does that long-term look like? So that's currently in the works, and we're hoping to have that plan in the next couple months. A sewer treatment plan, working with Cedar Corporation on updating our master plan that we had done in 2010. So putting together updated numbers and looking at updating options specifically as it relates to our business park and potential new businesses moving in there in that 150 acres. And then just general items in terms of larger projects. First, Campbell Street, Kinney to Walnut is probably the top priority that's not on this. It's in a street of repair. Ideally, it would really benefit from curb and gutter. So looking at a long-term how we can do that. So that's unfortunately not on there for now. And then looking at our major arterial street, Campbell Street from Willow to US Highway 10 and Kinney. We had the Cedar Corporation do this in the past. They updated these numbers. Unfortunately, for the time being, those streets are a little too costly, plus they're in a pretty good condition still, so not moving forward with those. And then working with WISDOT right now to do a long-term planning study for a pedestrian crossing on Highway 10, whether it be an overpass, underpass, or at-grade crossing. And then one thing we talked about last week with the dependent on the Erickson subdivision moving forward, a potential trail connection from McGee Park to Walnut Street.
The Highway 10, Matt.
Yeah.
You're looking at that as being, what's the date on that, 2029? Is that what you're looking at tentatively? On the cost-sharing improvements on Highway 10?
The cost sharing improvements on Highway 10, the DOT, that's a DOT project, so that's what they're currently telling us is
2029?
2029, potentially 2028.
Are they, I know in the past, and I'm talking, from experience, they were a little, they'd be a little bit tight on what they do as far as like, with how we're gonna get people across that highway. And
Sure.
how it's gonna happen.
Yeah.
How's your discussions been with them as far as
Fucking
cost sharing on that?
Terrible. They've been terrible. I'm gonna just speak because I was on Public Works at that time. I mean, they're not here to negotiate. They're here to make us sign a finance agreement. So we did it, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we committed to it. I mean, no, they were not flexible.
In the past,
Whatsoever.
it's been bad. I mean, it's almost like once you hit city limits, it's like, okay, the highways are running through your city, but we expect you to take care of all the ancillary things.
Yep.
Push came to shove on that quite a few times.
It's
I don't know how it's been on that, but I think we're really gonna be in need, safety-wise, and I know the DOT, I know how that goes. It's all data-driven as far as accidents and fatalities and such, but anybody that tries to get from one side of this city across, Highway 29 or Highway 10, it's not good. And I don't know if I don't think additional stoplights are gonna be the answer. I think to keep the efficient flow of traffic there, I think you have to find a way for pedestrians and bikes, I don't know about golf carts or whatever, but you have to find a way for them to get to the northern side of the city. And that place we've got up there, I don't know what we've got up there, 110 homes maybe, something like that. There's a lot of kids. There's a lot of kids up there. I just think we need to put a priority on that, and I think we need to get some cooperation from the state on that. I know it's their highway, but damn, we got to have a safe crossing there. You know, I hope there's not going to be a few fatalities before the DOT involves themselves.
Well, and there were multiple people on council that wrote letters.
Didn't do any good.
No.
Yeah,
We just got deferred.
it's really an issue.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't know what you got to do when push comes to shove on that, man, but it's
Well,
definitely an issue.
The planning stage is really where we have to get through with the DOT, because I guess their feedback to us is that we need more data, we need more feedback, we need more input, and so that's really what we're working on now with the Transportation Alternatives Planning Grant that we got with them. So it works directly with us, DOT, and Cedar Corporation to come up with a plan. However, I mean, it is going to be a very large-scale project, so no matter what, we're going to have to get a grant for it to keep moving forward. So I think that's been, but ultimately, still it has to go through council for approval, which is actually.
We went through some real preliminary concept plans on that as far as whether it was more cost-effective to go under or over the road when we were developing that area up there. And Prescott's a little unique in that because you don't know what you're going to get into when you dig in the ground. You know, it could be real expensive or it might not be too bad.
We were looking at crosswalks at the time.
And the DOT was poo-pooing anything going over, because it's the alternative to 94. So then any height restriction loads will come to Highway 10 instead of 94. So that's why they didn't want anything going over.
Over the top.
Yeah. I don't know whether they eased up on any of that or not, but
I think they'd make us go under if we did anything, it seems like.
that's most likely gonna happen
Then
if
it's gonna have
even if
to-
they approve it.
But then it's gonna have to accommodate that loading
Right.
for 90, like what you would need for 94.
So with it being so far out in the distance, if it is 5 years out, what steps would it be good for us to take and you to take leading up to these meetings? Would it be public input? Hopefully it's not just data driven. Hopefully we don't have to have some fatalities before they do this.
No, the whole planning process will be public input. We'll be holding public meetings with specifically sending out notices for having informational meetings here and asking for public input, sitting down with the police and fire department and, you know, getting their feedback and things like that. So that should, if everything gets approved and moves forward, that would be happening in 2025.
And then is there anything as far as comparable cities and similar problems that we could maybe have as evidence that they've done things for those communities when they've done the highway jobs? I would just guess they have, you know. Anyway, it's really going to be an issue. I sure hope we don't have any problems up there in the next 5 years, because it looks like we're going to.
Okay, so in 2026, Orton Road, we don't have a specific mill and overlay, however, Orton Road is from Pearl Street to Dexter Street, so in and of itself is a very extensive project for mill and overlay. Per our sidewalk plan within our comprehensive outdoor recreation plan, this does have, calls for the addition of a sidewalk or multi-use trail, so we'll be looking at the addition of that. Financing for this would be done from borrowing from a 20-year note to pay for this. Current estimate, although we are expecting this number to come down because it was very conservative, it was $1.5 million for the whole mill and overlay and addition of the trail or sidewalk. And additionally, this would tie into then if we have a crossing, that eventually this crossing would, as you cross the road, would tie into this sidewalk or multi-use trail when you come on the other
Okay.
side. Although we don't have any equipment, one of the larger purchases, just to include for reference, is that we're called for the replacement of the fire engine in 2027. Currently, we partner with Oak Grove and Clifton, so we have 57% of cost sharing within any items that we purchased. Current estimate is 1.6 million, however, the fire department is working to get an estimate from a supplier, so this number could come down, and we expect that this financing would come as part of the Orton Road project. We borrow at the same time. And that would include the portion that Oak Grove and Clifton would also be paying as well. In 2027 then, Fairy Wonderland Park, $683,567 estimate for this plan. This would include parking lots, restrooms, sports field, stormwater pond, and then repavement of the existing trail there. A couple ways we're financing this. First, in our old plan, we had funds set aside for the future Great Rivers Park. That development has slowed down a little bit, so we're switching those funds per our discussion with council over to Fairy Wonderland. And then also this year we got a grant through the Wisconsin Department of Transportation. So we expect that reimbursement then to hit our capital improvement fund and to be able to assist with some parks and street projects. So on top of that, then we look at our 2027 mill and overlay project. This would be $564,617. Again, 3-inch asphalt mill and overlay. All these streets are at 5 or below in terms of a maintenance rating this year, with the majority of them being 4 or below. So again, capital fund will be financing this specifically with the reimbursement of that MSIS grant for Elm and Washington Street. And then as we move forward, Court Street in 2029, $826,570. That's just for the general streets portion. That doesn't include the water, sewer, and storm sewer that may be part of this project. Once we get more into it, those numbers will be fully fleshed out. When we're looking at this, one of the things that has come on recently is the EPA and the Wisconsin DNR has required us to do a full lead service line inventory that Carter has been heading up, and we have to submit that, so we're going to wait to see. So this project might shift based on what kind of water requirements we're doing in terms of if there's a very high density of what we find for lead service lines. We're going to be working at finding a company that can actually be doing those inspections and verifying, because right now the ones that are assumed mark lead are not ones we know for sure. It's just that we don't have plan sets that go back that far, so to be on the safe side, we're marking them as assumed mark lead. So once we get that information, this project might shift to a different street based on what we find. As we already touched upon, US Highway 10, 2935 improvements. This is Wisconsin DOT project that requires cost share. They're going to be doing a full mill and overlay with spot repairs to curb and gutters and retaining walls. Our cost share, the major portion is a 20% of the sidewalk that will be going up US Highway 35 that will be connecting downtown to Freedom Park for $189,200. And then $48,800 for US Highway 10 and 29 improvements, which we'll get to here in the next picture. So that would include adding a trail. They're going to be redoing this intersection, so there would be a crosswalk here with the push button activation that then would allow pedestrians to cross here and then access the trail to then get all the way over to North Acres and Eagle Ridge to cross there with a crosswalk that would be added there as well, is the current proposal. So those projects, again, probably 2029, although maybe 2028, depends on Wisconsin DOT, although when we first started discussions with them, it was 2027, then 2028, now it's 2029, so maybe it'll get pushed back again. That's what they're saying to us now, though, is 2029. Water projects, again, treatment currently at well 2 and 4. I'm looking at those for the long term. Yeah.
So that retaining walls, are anything that we're gonna need to do, like, before then, or is it okay until then?
So on US Highway 10,
The big one over by the water treatment?
nothing we have to do.
Yeah,
It's
it's gonna
currently
move.
theirs for maintenance, so I guess if it fails, they would be the ones responsible for it.
that's how it
although-
is right now. Okay,
Yeah.
okay, cool, all right.
Water projects, 2028, looking at maintenance and painting of Tower 1, similar to what we just did Tower 2 a couple years ago. And then in 2030, we start a 5-year cycle of replacing meters. Current estimate is about $150,000 a year for a total of $750,000 through 2034. And then finally, we are still waiting on our final PSC review to see future water rates and utility rates for specifically our water fund for future years to make some of these maintenance projects continue to be fully funded. Then finally, TID 4 projects. Our expenditure period ends on March 3rd. Final year of the district is March 3rd, 2030. Sorry, expenditure period ends March 3rd, 2025. Annual tax generated estimates is $428,405. A few remaining projects. First, finalizing our Cherry Street and parking lot items, looking to add lights, and then potentially stairs that would connect the Cherry Street parking lot or the Dakota Street parking area down to the main downtown, and then fixing the Cherry Street railing. Replacing the downtown streetlights, we're currently working on that. We shared a survey with the Chamber of Commerce and the Tourism Committee to offer input on the style, so they have approved that. So now just finalizing the details on that to bring it to council for possible approval. And then transitioning those 35 cost share of $189,200 to TID 4, specifically because tentatively right now we did get approval for Knowles Nelson grant for our Riverfront Phase 2 for $363,617. So in the current CIP budget, we have the project at $2.78 million. We're still waiting on one other grant, and this will require a TIF revenue bond due to the expenditure period closure in March of 2025.
The streetlights that we're gonna use in downtown, is that gonna be the same for the riverfront too?
Yes.
Okay, cool. Even in front of the condos, because those ones are old, I think.
Mhm.
Mike wants those like replaced, right?
Yeah, we would look to replace all of them as long as it fits the budget.
So the dates, the important date on this is spring of 2025, we're gonna be looking at.
March 3rd, 2025 would be, we have to finalize everything and have it done, so that's the plan, but just the overall plan would be surveying, which is done, design is currently in the process, then we'd be going out to contract and bidding in January and then borrowing in February.
No weird like muscle studies or anything that we're gonna have to do that's gonna randomly pop
I'm
up
sure
on
we'll have a
us.
muscle study or two that has to be completed.
Only when we do the docks,
Yeah.
if and when.
It's pretty deep over there. There are no mussels over there, right? They migrate for the season.
We'll go with that.
Yep.
So with that, I'll turn it over to Plan Commission. Any recommended changes or revision to council for consider as part of approval, otherwise looking for a recommendation on the plan to bring to council.
The Sunset Park, what are we doing in that one again?
So we haven't gotten into details specifically into that, but based on the tour that we took before and the discussion, we'd be looking to sit down with the Parks Committee. And I think we talked about like replacing the basketball hoop to the
Yeah.
same style we did at Public Square Park.
So pretty much the
replacing
same list that
sign.
we're going off of that we did like a while back where we went through and toured
Yes.
everything. Okay, all right, I'm good.
That was a long time ago.
Well, we did
Or did
another
you do it
tour.
again?
We did another one. I don't remember when, but we did at some point.
So I've got one for you, Matt. How about tree replacement? Are we going, what are we gonna do on that? What's the city, is there any thought being given to that? I know there's system problems as far as who's gonna take care of them and water them and such,
Yeah.
as they're trying to, we need to replace some of those trees.
Which ones?
Well,
The ones that were in the
ash.
right of way? Oh, mine got torn down. They were dead.
well, down toward the middle school where it would be, yeah, there's a bunch of trees that they're taking out down there, or if they haven't, they're going to. And just noticing trees around town, are we gonna do tree replacement? I don't see any plans for that. I don't see it in our plan.
Yeah, we don't have any plans with that. We have talked about it. I know Public Works, because they're so in the phase of removal of trees and so many trees, they're more of like, well, let's stay away from trees for a while so we don't have to deal with them. And I think overall, we do have to kind of figure out how we would do that if we're gonna plant in the right of way. Are we gonna, like we mentioned, we
to-
don't have a parks division to water the trees, so are we just planting trees that end up dying? So
Well, it'd be good to get input to see like what tree should we get that has a better chance of surviving whatever random diseases that come around. I'm not a
yeah.
green.
About
thumb
40
or
years ago, they thought it was ash.
Right? Yeah.
Right after the elm
Right
went
after
by.
the elm,
Yeah.
yeah, 50 years ago, but it just, we've been kind of known, for, to have the good tree-lined streets and such, and I think it's part of a small town to have, take care of it. If we're losing all these trees, maybe we should think about replacing some, I know when we did all the elms way back when, remembers that, but I do. And I know it was a concern. It may take a system issue with how we're gonna set that up. Is this parks people? Is it gonna be part of is it gonna be volunteers that are gonna water them? It just doesn't seem like we have any kind of plan going forward to replace these trees.
I would agree with you.
And it's gonna take money.
If and when we do that, we should probably consult with an arborist, like, what are other communities doing, what type of trees are we putting in, for longevity wise and, like disease resistant, because there's a lot of trees that have inherent disease. And, so,
Or you can do multiple species so that way.
what's that?
Do
Multiple.
multiple species.
Exactly, yeah. But I just think, and I don't know how it is as far as with the current composition of the council, or if there's some people there that see it the same way that I do, but I would just guess that it's something that we should look into. If we're looking at capital improvement plans, and we're going out 7 years, I think somewhere in there we should have some interest being paid to our vegetation in the city. And I'm not, my wife is the one that's into this, but I can see her point. I can really see it where it should be to where we allocate funds either now or in the not too distant future to where we set it in the system to do this. This is what the capital improvement plan is all about.
Yeah, I think, well, you have it mapped, don't you, the trees on our,
Yeah, we're getting a right-of-way tree survey done right now by Rainbow Tree Care, which they have their certified arborists, so
Yeah.
they know all of our trees because they're out there mapping them.
Yeah.
They would be good to consult to see what we should be planting.
because I'll say for the two that you guys cut down in Meyer, I don't want anything there again. Like, because there was kind of like along the whole way, so it'd be interesting to get feedback to see who wants to replace them that were taken down. Like the two that I have, the trees are kind of close together, so when they took them out, I wasn't sad about it, but I have other nice big trees in my yard. But maybe others don't, so to your
Yeah.
point.
Anyway, I think it should be of concern. It should be brought up anyway, and at least considered. It should be there I think it's important for a good part of our city population that we replace.
I feel like that's a good idea, but also, to Bailey's point, she doesn't want her trees replaced. Some people might want their trees replaced. Like, how do you navigate that whole different piece of it? Because, and then who's gonna take care of them? Who's gonna water them? Because half the homeowners won't.
What
Especially
would
if
be
they
the
don't want 'em.
homeowner's responsibility?
Then
We're not
the
planting
city's-
them on private property.
No, I
we're
get
putting
that.
them in the boulevard.
But then, even in the boulevard, is the city workers gonna have to go water those every day?
Somebody will. You need a part-time job.
No, God, I don't
Could do a program where if they want the tree, we pay for the tree, and the resident agrees to water it.
Yeah.
That is an option where we could do some sort of agreement if a homeowner reaches out that we could pay for the tree and they sign an agreement that they're gonna maintain and water it, and then it'll be on their property, so you can get the best of both worlds of adding trees, but also so Public Works doesn't have to want to.
Yeah,
That's
that's a
what
good
I would
idea.
do, not
Yeah.
commit to the watering and say, you want a tree?
Yeah.
We'll get you the tree, you water it.
Yep, you take care of it.
That's something we'll have to look into.
Yeah. Good call.
Okay. Yeah.
I got another one.
A motion to move forward with this?
Mike's got another one.
I'm sorry, Mike, go ahead.
Dog park. I know there's people on different ends of the
Sure.
spectrum on this. I think we should give it some consideration. I think since COVID, when people were picking up dogs, and I see a lot more people walking dogs now, I see more dog activity. I don't know if that'll trail off, but
We looked at a spot outside of town on one of the properties that we had. It was just by, where is it, the compost area? It was like, there's a nice long strip, basically, that we looked at, and that's where we were thinking about putting it at one time.
I haven't got the specifics, like, I go to Hastings once in a while and I'll hang out there, and, or when we travel, we'll find out where there's a dog park, if we're camping someplace, and we'll take the dogs there. I just think it's I think it adds value. You know, I know some people don't, and there will be some expenditures on that. You know, you're gonna have to, hopefully there'll be some parking where people can take their car, and then there's gonna be some fence issues. You got your pickup and your cleanup. Are you gonna have water there for the critters and such? But I just think we should consider a dog park in the city of Prescott or in the nearby area. I think it would be something. I don't see any plans for it here. I know those communities that we go to, it's a good place for people to socialize. I mean, you get a place and I see a lot of use out of it. You see good ones and you see not so good ones, but I really think it would be a welcome addition to the city of Prescott if we had a dog park.
I think where we ended on it, Mike, was that essentially, like, when we did the tour of these parks, like going to Sunset, going to some of these other ones, I mean, they're just not in good condition. And so the thought process is like, we need to take care of what we have, get that established, and then kind of move forward from there, essentially. Because even McGee, that was part of the work around McGee, was like, okay, when Cooley River Trails came up, it's kind of like that perfect pairing where nothing was happening with McGee, nothing. So that opportunity came up, same thing with the Fairy Wonderland, but with some of these other parks, the thought was kind of like, let's take care of what we have. I mean, that's why we sold the post office, that's why we just tried to clean up.
I've seen some pretty good dog parks, you know.
I'm not saying there's not some nice ones, but I think the other piece is just liability. I don't know what the liability is, just in dog stuff alone. I don't know if does that fall underneath the recreation stuff?
A lot of communities have them, so there must be something we can figure out there.
Yeah.
I agree that people use them, you build them, they'll come.
There's a certain amount of maintenance to do. You gotta fence it. There's, like I say, you may wanna put a well in to where there's some water there, or pipe some water there. I've seen it be a good social activity for citizens if they have a dog park. I see a lot of dogs in town. I see a lot of people walking their dogs. I think it would be a good addition for the city of Prescott, and I think it should be considered. That's my thoughts.
The only other thing that we need to look into is like disinfecting, because the one thing that happens at dog parks is disease runs rampant. And so I've lost dogs to parvo. Like, I personally don't take my dogs to dog parks just because I had a
And I've heard that
bad
too, Bailey.
experience.
I've heard people that don't because
So-
they're worried about things happening there.
And bites,
But I sure
dog
see a lot of
bites.
people that do.
No, there's a ton of people that take them. I'm just saying, like, food for thought. That's all I'm saying. Food for thought.
Right. Anyway, I'd like it noted in the notes, you know, in the meeting notes, and then I'd like the council to at least give some thought to that, because I think it would be a good addition for the city of Prescott to have a dog park.
Okay.
Thank you.
Do you need a vote?
Any other comments?
Matt, you had briefly mentioned police and fire structures, buildings. Could you elaborate a little bit on that, on where that lands in the plan? In regards
So right
to-
now, we're in the process, we did a space needs study where specifically Cedar Corporation came and just looked at our overall use, and we sat down with the chief, fire chief, police chief, library director, and myself, and we went through and discussed some of the issues that we have with the building. Specifically, as you're aware of some of the older maintenance things that are now coming up with the fire departments, the police building, we're constantly having maintenance issues with dead animals climbing into the walls and dying. Black mold we just had last week, so we're treating that. So it's just looking at the long term. What are we looking to do? Are we going to try to figure out, maintenance things that we'll keep doing? Because I think we want to not pump money into a building if we know 5 years down the road we're going to replace it with something that's of better quality. So trying to make that decision sooner rather than later, and those are really the bigger issues. That like the whole fire department facing Ash Street is all corroding and wearing away, so that all has to be replaced. But if we're going to tear down that building and replace it or move elsewhere, we don't want to spend that money and just make it work. So that's kind of where we're at, trying to figure that all out.
Or pull a permit and have to bring it up to code.
Yeah, I mean, at some point, we'd probably replace that building, I would think. Fire
We
hall.
talked-
We
Expand.
talked about it. I mean, we talked about it.
We're landlocked there. So we have to find a new location, which we're kicking ideas around, because we'll need 5 acres to combine the police and the fire department and possibly
Public Works?
City Hall.
Oh.
So,
Not Public Works?
Public Works will stay where they are.
Okay.
And it's kind of like a public safety building, if you will. It's not 100%, that everything's still in the works on where's it gonna go. There are, different people have different ideas about the location of where it could be. So that's pretty much where that's at.
And it's a long term, I mean, we wouldn't, I think right now, even if something happens, it wouldn't be till 2029, 2030.
How bad is the mold issue?
I guess I don't know, we have a company coming out, I'm just referencing as that's just one of the struggles with maintenance, but their company's coming out, I think, this week or next week to look at it.
And that's next door here? That's
Yeah.
over here?
Yeah, I mean, we had to replace the furnace, we had to replace the carpeting. Had to replace a lot of stuff because of water damage and things like that. So it's, both buildings are definitely a necessity. It's not a if, it's a when. So, I mean, it's a reality that we're gonna have to take care of soon. Anything else? So we need a motion to move this forward to council then?
Yes.
I'll make the motion.
Okay, we have a motion, a second to move the capital improvement plan for 2025 through 2031 to council. Is there any discussion on the motion? Not all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Next item on the agenda is section 635-57, amendments to regulate inhabiting recreational vehicles. Carter?
Yeah, so staff has been made aware of several instances recently of people inhabiting campers and RVs on private property. Currently, we're kind of restricted. We actually have no, regulation governing the setup and use of these on private lots. So this would propose a change to 635-57, which is off-street parking in residential areas. That ordinance currently allows campers to be parked on a residential lot in the rear and side yard, but it doesn't have any restrictions on habitation, so we would pretty much define setup for habitation, which would be connected to utilities, having the slide outs or pop-ups extended, or being occupied as a residence. And we would also stipulate that they cannot be set up for habitation for more than 7 consecutive days. After the 7 days, it must be removed or stored without habitation for at least 30 days. So that would kind of aim to solve the issue that we have of people looking to inhabit campers. One thing to note is we wouldn't go around policing this. It would be kind of a complaint-based, so we've only had 2 complaints, but they've been very recent, so we haven't really had any tools to deal with it. But I know there are a lot of campers out there. We wouldn't go around sending letters to every single camper set up unless someone were to notify us. One thing is, due to this ordinance being in the zoning code, we would have to set a public hearing. So staff would recommend a public hearing be set for the next plan commission. We say next plan commission that because we anticipate the November plan commission to be canceled if you guys do decide on that, because there's a conflict with the 2024 general election happening the next day. So, but yeah, with that, any questions or comments from the plan commission, we can take those.
How many properties have this issue?
Recently, well, there's a lot of properties that have campers set up. Recently, we've had to deal with 2 in the past probably month. And we send a letter kind of nudging them that this is against the kind of guidelines of the residential district, but there's really no regulation that outright prohibits it, so.
So I guess the one thing I see on here, there's talking about you can't have it set up for habitation, including being connected to utilities. I mean, a lot of people, they'll have their slide outs in there, they don't like to leave them plugged in.
Yeah.
Not for
living in
Not
them.
for living in them, but so your
Yeah.
batteries are charged, and
Yeah.
like maybe if you do walk in the camper, you can, turn the lights on and refrigerator's running.
My parents have done that.
Also, like, what if you got someone staying at your house for 10 days because they brought their camper
I
or,
Fourth
agree,
of
7
July.
sounds like it's quite short.
yeah. Like grandma's visiting from Florida, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, it can be adjusted. Yeah,
I guess
however
what's
you
the
guys see
concern?
fit. We just get complaints of it recently too in the past month, and just no tool to deal with it, so it kind of is allowed to exist.
Concern is somebody's living in them permanently.
Right now?
Yeah, over the whole summer, like they set up residence and
Airbnb, man.
which, again, this is coming for your feedback. If the overall thought is, nope, we don't need this in our code, then
Well, if it's not hooked up to sanitary and things like that, you're gonna start running into unhealthy conditions if you let it go beyond 7 days.
Not if they're not using the toilet. Cause I know a buddy who keeps his camper at his house just during the summer, and that's what it is, it's a spare bedroom for when people come visit. It's just so they have their own bedroom. I mean, I don't think they're, it probably only gets used
Then if
7
it's
days
a
a summer, but.
sanitation thing, doesn't that fall underneath the health and, like, I think we have an ordinance underneath health and safety. For that, don't we, for like, if someone's living in a situation where there's a bunch of crap piling up inside of it and
yeah, I mean, if there's things like that, but
there's
I
something, health and
I
safety.
think generally speaking, if people are using them, they're using the indoor house for their facilities.
Yeah.
But
I think the 7 days is
Too short.
The only thing is, the only reason it's the 7 days doesn't bother me is, okay, if somebody makes a complaint because they're on day number 8, by the time they get the letter from the city, you're probably gone.
I know, but then it just sounds like a waste of everyone's time.
Yeah.
I mean, 14 days more realistic,
I don't know.
10 days.
Well, if you got family coming up from North Carolina that might need to be here for a little bit longer, no? I mean, that's where I guess I don't, like,
Well, maybe there should be a section 3 where
request?
a request for a,
Ooh, I like
Longer.
that.
yeah.
Well, I mean,
so that way the city knows you're there.
what if it's longer than that, then go park it at a campground?
It's really,
Maybe we should look at providing some camping spots here.
No.
Party spots.
No.
We're saying,
like, couldn't they just, like, if they're gonna have it up for 14 days or whatever, and it needs to be longer than that due to, like, some situation, I mean,
yeah, we could add if any extension beyond 14 days, a written request could be made to the city for review and possible
I
consideration.
feel like that would be,
Yeah.
We do include a statement like that in our violation letter already, a written schedule for compliance. We'll usually accept that, longer than the 30 days, so.
It's just good to have it there because there are people that read the code and they specifically, if they don't see it in the code, they'll say, why aren't you doing something about this within the 14-day time period as it's listed? So just,
because we're a small city, we're like, we'll get to it. Like, that's my answer. I mean, not to be a jerk, but like, literally, that's my answer. We are you got Carter and you, Beth, and like, a small group of people. If there's
That
a,
have other stuff to do.
it's like we have day-to-days. We're doing complaint-based stuff. We can do the best we can, but
We could hire a,
we are doing due
we
diligence to
could
the best of
hire
our
a code
ability.
compliance officer, but then
Let's
the whole
not.
damn town complains.
Let's not do that. Let's not do that one. Like that idea. I like the written approval if it has to be longer than 14 days, just for, yeah.
Everybody okay with that?
The additional verbiage, I think you pointed it out, the no more than 3 vehicles of any type shall be stored on a driveway, some of that section, is that, so your off-street parking,
What section are you looking
We're
at?
looking at section 2,
To,
C.
a lot of there's quite a bit of rules here. Like if somebody were to call on somebody, you'd make their life a living heck.
yeah.
And they'd be like, why'd we do this to ourselves?
I mean, we did just review the whole zoning code like last year, so I believe there wasn't any proposed changes to the section, but we can look at that as part of this if that's, since we do have to bring this
My only-
section back.
My only problem is that no more than 3 vehicles in a driveway? Is that what that means? So you have 4 cars. I mean, if they fit your damn driveway, you should be able to put them there.
I agree.
Me as well.
Private property. If it fits there and you're not driving
Matt,
up
are you
on the
saying that
yard.
this is that verbiage is old verbiage? We already approved?
already
is that-
there,
Yeah, it's already
yeah.
there.
Yeah,
That was
You know,
already
and
existing.
when we did that code review, that, I would argue that was massive amounts of data. And as we take a smaller look at this section, you know, that I caught your eye, but I agree, it's, you know, as we talk about this topic, this
Maybe it
is,
should go to health and safety.
There you go. Or is
well,
it-
it's part of the zoning code, so it would really have to come before plan commission anyways.
Okay.
I guess the only thing I would say is we do have issues where people stack their vehicles into the right-of-way in the driveway already, so it would be nice to have some sort of limitation, just because even though people say it's their
Can we say
driveway.
not impede the right of way?
Yeah, if
Right.
we just put
Tailor
not
the
impede the
verbiage.
right-of-way.
Yeah.
cover
I
that.
mean, I guess it doesn't really affect those people that don't have sidewalks and other pedestrian ways, but those that do.
Yeah, so if we say that shall not impede the right of way or city sidewalks?
We do, it's a different section, but there's,
Yeah.
like, I think it's encroachment of a public way or something.
Yeah,
So that would be the other one. We would probably end up using that a lot, because I think there is kind of a fundamental misunderstanding of where private property is and where the right-of-way starts, and people tend to like to use their entire length of the driveway. So I would anticipate that would get used a lot. And I will say this specific section, 635-57, if I write 10 violation letters, this is probably included in 8 of them. People call in about this specific section a lot.
What is their complaint usually? I haven't done this, 4 cars.
Well, yeah, number of vehicles, oftentimes the vehicles are parked off a driveway too. That's another violation. So limiting the vehicles, the limit of vehicles seems to be a large violation in Prescott. I mean, it's one of our number ones.
Well, that makes
besides
sense. A lot of people have more
Drass's.
than 3 cars.
Yeah, true.
so maybe review that at another time, or you wanna redline that now? Because I'm wondering, like, for the number 2 that we have in blue, so we have no camper recreational vehicle or similar unit shall be set up for habitation on any lot for more than 7 days, 7 consecutive days unless located in a permitted campground. And then we have set up for habitation includes being connected to utilities. That's the only section that I would say, maybe we look at that, because people do have their pop-outs out and they're either charging or doing that kind of stuff, so I don't know if we want to change the definition, basically, of that set up for habitation includes. Because we're not really talking about set up for habitation in that first sentence.
Yeah, and the reason that's in there is in the 2 instances we've dealt with it, it's difficult to objectively qualify if someone's living in there, because you talk to them and you say, well, so looks like someone's living in there, immediately say, no one's living in there. So you need to kind of set some objective standards of what habitation looks like and what it is. Otherwise, you have to essentially catch someone occupying the camper, and that is a lot of time that takes to do that.
I just think we're gonna get cross with some of the other people that are not doing it for that
Right,
purpose.
yeah.
So,
And, yeah, that is a good point. And I would say, I'm not arguing one way or another, but if there is someone living in a camper, we would probably get called in on that aspect. But if they just have it set up for storage, it's not likely we would receive a call.
Yes, it's complaint-based.
apparently we have people complain about things about driveways. I had no idea that our complaints were the majority of those. But so yeah, that would be I guess the note. I don't know another way that we could word it or something like that for that last section or sentence, but, and then if written approval, if you need to stay longer than 14 days, are we doing 7 days or 14 days?
14.
14?
the example of the hurricane's a perfect one, because that could totally be a
I mean, that
scenario.
ain't over yet either. Florida's gonna be gone here in about a minute. So there's gonna be a lot of people that are displaced. That's why I'm trying to be like a
Or if
little.
somebody comes up that,
Oh, right,
cautious
I mean,
about
that's
it.
just,
you get here on a Friday, like, I'm
Yeah.
staying for the next weekend too.
yeah.
So if we did 14 days, is everybody good with 14 days and then written approval afterwards? Anybody got an
Sure.
opinion? Yeah. And then finding another way to describe habitation. You're
Yeah,
living in
I
there.
mean,
I get that's hard to prove, but I don't know, you know, at the end of the day, the complaint's the same, like whether it's true or not, you know. They'd have to prove it, I guess. You give the notice just the same.
I don't know, that gets tough too though, like, what if your kid wants to stay over there for the summer, you know, in the camper? I mean, I'm just thinking about it.
Yeah, and I feel like it'd be weird for a small town to limit somebody like that. But I don't know.
Well, again, it's complaint based, so if it's only got 2 in the past month, I guess, but if it's bothering somebody for whatever, I don't know why it would be bothering somebody, but
I really don't think it would bother somebody if it was the neighbor kids, but
Right.
You never know.
if you have like all of a sudden 15 cars because they got a couple campers.
Well, if it becomes a problem in the other direction, we could revisit it then, and,
Yeah.
I'm okay with
yeah.
the way you have it written here.
I'm not.
Changing it to 14 instead of 7.
I'm not just because of the pop-out piece. Just because people will call and complain about the pop-out piece. Even though it's habitation. That's the only thing. It'd be nice to find a different way to describe it. I don't know a good way. I'm trying to find one right now. Is there any comparable other cities at all that have this or anything, or they allow it pretty much? Hager?
Well, a lot of cities actually don't really allow, RVs or campers to be parked on residential lots unless they're kind of enclosed, like a shed or garage.
Like Ellsworth? Are we talking Ellsworth or are we talking Edina?
Well, I looked at this at one point. I think in unsheltered storage ordinance, we had Hudson and River Falls were both pretty much can't have it. Ellsworth and Baldwin, I think I looked at, were most similar to what we have now, where you can essentially have them unenclosed. So it really depends
Baldwin?
where you look, but.
I don't know if we're gonna get to a answer tonight maybe on this. I don't know. Where's everybody thinking? Are we fine with the language that's in there, 14 days? I guess it's just with the pop-out stuff, I'm apprehensive.
Yeah.
I'm fine.
So we need a motion on that too?
Because that's not a public hearing.
We don't, we have to bring it to a public hearing, so, I guess the other question that was brought up was the vehicles placed on the driveway. Are you wanting us to look to change that as part of this public hearing?
As long as they don't impede the right of way.
But if we have
Yeah.
that already.
Yeah.
If you've got to go to a public hearing anyways, wouldn't this be a great opportunity to nip that too?
I'm just wondering if the one that you mentioned already contradicts it a little bit. Like if we already have something that says you can have more than 3, or is it state 3 and must not impede on the one that you had pulled up?
It just is about encroachment of a public way, so
Doesn't matter if you have
anything that
one.
would encroach or impede the public way.
Yeah.
So it doesn't state a number of anything.
The only last piece I guess I would say about this, and just a point of, the one issue we do have is that people who park a lot of vehicles in their driveway tend to park the ones that are junk and out of registered at the very front. And then they park vehicles behind them, and then we can't see the license plate, and we're not allowed to go on private property. That's the only, I think probably that's why they put 3 vehicles, because it allows you to still see the 2 vehicles no matter what, but that's not that big of a problem. We've had a couple issues with it. I'm just pointing out that's one of the reasons probably why they did it.
I think a lot of people got more than 3 cars, but,
My neighbor's got 4 cars. I have 5. The other neighbor has 4.
I got 3 and 2 motorcycles.
Yeah.
So we'll change it to this.
Sorry, I'm probably breaking rules right now, so. find
We'll
me.
change it so that
Yeah,
they're basically unlimited as long as they're parked in the driveway and.
and out of, not encroaching on a right of way or easement.
That sounds very nice.
I like it.
So just modifying it to 14 days. Okay.
So we're good to move that to public hearing then?
Yep.
Okay. So, other business, consideration November meeting conflict with the general election. We gonna cancel it or?
That was the thought, if everybody's all right with pushing that public hearing till December, and then we'll have it then.
Sounds good.
Guys all good with that?
Yep.
Sounds good.
Okay.
Motion to adjourn?
Second?
Motion, a second to adjourn. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.